Hello, welcome everyone back to another episode of Energy Unleashed. My name is Suzanne, and I'm here with my partner, Kim, and we're both at the lake,
We
obviously.
are. It's so exciting.
I know. I thought we'd give them a little view of the water this morning. So I'm pre-apologizing if anything goes crazy out there via motors or children.
Yeah,
I keep
poor
hearing, I,
animals.
yeah, I keep hearing these kids wafting across the lake, and I'm like, oh, well, that's just karma for all the years my kids' voices wafted across the lake. So. Or us staying up until 2 and 3 in the morning, partying at the fire, wafting across the lake. So I'm sure there's a lot of karma involved, right?
There's a lot, a lot. It's okay. It's all good.
Yeah. So anyway, here we are at the end of August in Minnesota when we're taping this, and Kim and I were just discussing it is absolutely humid and melting up here. This has been a very, very interesting week. I just got back up, as did you yesterday. And I think both of us are up through the holiday, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm doing again some writing up here and very blessed and very fortunate. And sometimes I just stare out and, it's so incredibly overwhelming to know that you indeed do have a place where you can feel safe and quiet and safe when you're alone, which I think
Yeah.
is a really interesting thing. I'm alone up here often and I never feel unsafe. It's always better when I know you're two docks down too. But yeah, I think it's interesting to be able to just sit in a peaceful place like this. And that's actually kind of the subject that I'm going to talk about today, Kim, is I have been running into clients periodically and forever doing this, and myself included, I'm going to throw into this mix that people have a hard time with the calm. People have a hard time with the quiet. I'm better at it because I have been blessed to have this place and have been able to work with the calm and work with the quiet. But I think what's really interesting, especially right now, the energy is so insane, and the Lionsgate was really crazy. The blue moon, I think that is what they called this one, around the Lionsgate was astrologically so ginormous and really rocking. We talked yesterday, the Schumann resonance is off the charts. It's rocking everybody's insides and outsides and every side. And I think that this chaotic energy, it's so interesting because it drives everybody nuts. And
Oh,
yet, people do not know how to not trust the chaos, meaning they trust the chaos versus they trust calm. And I think it's a really important subject to kind of dive into and unleash a little bit that humans hate chaos and yet they thrive on it.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like driving down the highway and there's an accident. You can't not participate or like stop and
Oh,
look,
roadkill.
like I don't know. It's like chaos. I just people are so attracted to it. And it's amazing to me how they don't understand how their energy gets so wanky, when they're
Yes.
involved in all of that. It just made my stomach icky. Sorry.
Well, I actually, I actually had kicking up chaos in your gut while we talk. I actually had a client the other day, and it was so funny because we were talking about this, and I mean, just the energy that they bring into the room, and this isn't judgment because I was a class act at this when I first started, and I will never forget. In fact, I told this client the story. I will never forget years and years ago when I was first starting this journey of energy that I went to see a gal, and she looked at me and she said, you love chaos. And I'm like, no, I don't. And she said, you love drama because you only trust drama. And I was so pissed. And I just seriously wanted to kind of punch her in the face and say, what? Hence drama.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it triggered such trauma and drama and trauma in me that I wanted to punch her for saying it, which obviously meant that there was something to it.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yet back then I didn't even see it or recognize it or even want to hear it. But that stuck with me forever and ever. And I still am reminded of that little phrase, and I can still see her face doing it. And she said it kind of, I think it was a little bit condescending when she said it. She was kind of snotty. And because she actually, well, anyway, so anyway, never mind. So anyway, I was taken aback, but I was kind of wounded by it. But I think the reason why was because there was truth in it.
Mhm. Yeah, I believe it. Isn't it interesting that when you take that step back and you're like, how could that possibly be true? I do this, da 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 da, and I'm all in, and just that fast paced reaction of
Yep.
that's not me. That can't be me. Like, I
Yep.
don't do that. And then you start to really observe your relationships and different things that you're involved in. And it's like, oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. I come in with big energy, I stir the pot, and then I walk away. Like,
That's exactly one of the actual red flags. If you the red flag of a person that loves chaos is, do you stir the pot? Do you come in with that giant energy and need to be center of attention? And for many many years I didn't know that I was wanting to be center of attention as much as I was just taking it,
mhm,
because this all relates back to empathing. Obviously, this is a huge amount of empathing. When we take everybody else's energy, we're taking it because we don't have any of our own. And the reason we don't have any of our own is because we're not spending the quiet. So the quiet is where I get my fuel. I don't want to be in the quiet. We'll get to that in a second. But if I'm not having the quiet fill with fuel, I'm going to steal it from everybody in the chaos. And so it's a loop pattern that we get really, really stuck in. But our ego doesn't want to admit that, goodness sakes, I want to be the center of attention, because that sounds narcissistic. But actually, it's an energy thing. I want to be the center of attention because I got no fuel. It's really crazy.
and I wish I would have understood that at a much younger age because I'm watching a few people in my family circle here that it's it is a vicious circle. And I think some of it is very when you talk about thoughts, the gerbil of the thoughts, the gerbil wheel, it's they don't know that they are purposefully doing some of
Gosh,
this.
no,
It's
no.
it's it and they don't want the reaction, but they get it. And so to understand that they're actually low on energy and need that energy makes so much sense to me.
It's
Because
actually even more, Kim. It's not just low on energy, it's low on self-esteem. Hence,
yes,
they have no energy.
yeah.
So the one that is coming forward and really being the chaotic tornado in the room that everybody's feeding off of, everyone thinks, wow, he or she really's got their stuff together because they're just shining and taking up the whole room. They're not, though. They have no self-esteem or low self-esteem, and therefore they don't have the capacity to sit with their shadow self, their sides that they don't want to know about, etc. Haven't done the work, so they just steal. And it doesn't judge anybody for being horrible, because you hit the nail on the head. Most people don't even know they're doing this. I had no idea I did that.
Mhm.
I just thought that I just had a lot of energy. And I thought this was normal, meaning I'm super, super heightened. Now I'm absolutely exhausted. I go to a party and I'm rocking it and everybody's having a great time, myself included. And then I come home and I pummel. And this action is very indicative of someone who is stealing and then needs it, stealing, needs it, and on, because it's constant. It's vampiring,
It is.
right?
It's exhausting. I know just especially in my career, in the office space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are vampiring all over the place, but in order to stay above and keep moving, I know I was vampiring energy from people to do that.
Well, you know now.
I know now, but I didn't know then. I just thought I was holding myself in a place of kind of authority, some power, the
Hmm.
ego kind of stuff. And I know you said to me, you have to let go of your ego. I'm like, what ego? I don't have an
Yeah.
ego, but I had an ego. I have
Oh
an
my
ego,
goodness.
and we work it all the time.
Yep.
So yeah, it's that energy part of it. It's just fascinating now to watch people, especially people that I think have been kind of abandoned in relationships that
Huge.
have, like you said, the self confidence isn't there, but
Yep.
the only attention they've been able to get is more negative attention.
Yep.
And so that feeds them, even though
Because
they
it's
don't
still
want it.
fuel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
They don't want that kind of reaction or behavior from other people, but then they thrive on it. They're taking all of that energy. And so it's fascinating to watch. I just,
And you hit another really big clue, is the abandonment issue. It is about low self-esteem. It is about trauma. When we've grown up in trauma, we know nothing else. So that is our benchmark for normal.
mhm,
And I think it's really, really tough for many, many people to be able to go, oh, trauma is actually not normal. My body is not designed for trauma. My body is actually designed for peace and serenity and calm and flow.
mhm.
And here's the problem with that. And I'm going to dovetail into the next chunk of it. That's too normal.
What?
Flow, ease, grace, calm, serenity is normal. And people don't like to consider themselves normal. They don't like to, whether they believe it or not, they want to be that one. And we all have a titch of this programming in us. We want to be that one. A lot of those archetypes are like, we've talked several times about the savior archetype. This is
Mhm.
a little bit more about the hero or the, the one archetype. It's like, I'm that special one. And we all have this to some extent, whether we choose to have the quiet time to admit this and sort of unravel it in our ego. And of course, we're always going to have an ego because it's needed. We need to have our ego. It's part of
Mhm.
our experience. But when we're talking about get rid of your ego, it's get rid of the false sides of your ego that are saying, I have to be that special one. I have to be that extraordinary one. Because what that does is it triggers that key inside of us that says, I'm not enough unless I'm extra.
Oh,
I'm not
right. And
enough
then the
because I'm extra.
validation. Yeah.
Yep.
So the validation that you get from being special or extra
Yep.
is what they're really thriving on then, right?
And I'm going to bring this around to spiritual experiences a lot because this is one of the toughest, I think, parts of the spiritual journey is being normal. When we start to have awakening, when we start to holy crap, I can see my guides or I can see auras. And oh my God, that is so out of the normal
Yeah.
that you start to thrive, and myself included, I've done tons of this on and off. You start to thrive on the extraordinary because it makes you think and feel inside that you are special and that you are getting somewhere and that you are getting into spaces and places that others don't have the capacity of. And that is true, but it's not true, meaning everyone has the capacity to open up their senses and have experiences. Whether they choose to do the work or not to do that is up to them. But when you step into those initially, they can be so incredibly bizarrely overwhelming and exciting that it almost is to the detriment of sadness that it will never happen to that extent again. So we start to really screw ourselves and put limitations on ourselves even in these journeys because it's like, well, that was so freaking amazing. That's never going to happen again. Oh my God, I literally saw a ship in the sky and I've been looking for one ever since, and it's been 5 years and I haven't seen a thing. Those kinds of, again, ups and downs are very difficult because we can't fathom in our human brain and body that I can attain that and keep that as a normal
Mm,
because we don't like normal.
right.
Even if normal's extra normal. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Right. And it is a roller coaster too, though,
Hmm.
because you have these experiences and then you're just in the quiet, kind of mundane part of life. And you're like, oh my
Right.
God, I'm broken. Nothing's working now. I'm not seeing anything. What's happening to me? And then all of a sudden another experience will come by and it's like, oh, okay. All right, we're back on track. What was I doing that I'm not seeing this? Or,
And
but that
that's the
negative
danger.
talk.
You just hit it. That's the danger. Back on track
Yeah,
is where we want to be extraordinary again. And we
exactly.
cannot, for the life of us, for some reason, understand that normal is every single solitary thing is extraordinary in front of your eyes if you would just stop the chaos long enough to be present in the normal.
Right.
It's all jumbled up.
It is. It is very jumbled up. And I find myself doing this, and then it 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 hits me, and it's like, oh wait, okay,
I did it
what are
again.
you doing? It's that talk track, the thoughts start, and then it kind of snowballs a little bit, and then
Yep.
it's like, okay, let's just take a step back because this isn't what it's meant to be. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I find myself, I've had many, many instances where people or clients or people at events that I'm putting on or whatever go, oh my gosh, I can't believe all the amazing things you get to see or you get to do. Well, I practice,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I don't just sit there and twiddle my thumbs and auras come floating to me. Well, sometimes, but I mean,
Sometimes.
we sometimes just have stuff happen. It doesn't mean we have to work really hard at everything. In fact, let me backtrack there. I think part of this is I'm going to take that whole sentence back because part of it is that we don't trust that it can be easy,
Yeah. Right.
right? We don't
Yeah.
trust that this is part of who and what we are and how we can get there is ease and grace. So on the flip side of that, everything is dualistic. I do practice a lot. And so I do get to have some really extraordinary things happen because of the work put in. So it's kind of a both sides of that coin. On the other hand, I find myself so when I'm coming to a lull, or integration period is where I find this. I am still human and I will still go on other people's sites or jump on Facebook or I'll look on YouTube and I'm like, how come they get to do that? And I turn into that horrible whiny human that's like, they're having all those great experiences out at the paranormal ranch, and I'm just stuck in Minnesota, you know? And so I will do a lot of that pissy, moany, whiny human thing just
Yeah.
automatically. And I do my best to catch myself in that immediately and go, wow, you just triggered your normal. You just triggered your not enough. You just triggered all that crap that is all bullshit. So stop it, you know?
Yeah.
And I can catch myself doing that super easy.
Yeah, well, it is very difficult to keep the balance, I think, between our everyday life, kind of the 3D stuff that shows up
Mhm.
and, like making the bills and, having going grocery shopping and all the things.
Yep.
It's really hard to keep the balance sometimes. If I find myself going, all right, I just need to get this stuff done and then it'll be okay. I can sit and do whatever. And it's not how it works.
No, it
It's
never works.
it never works that way. And then before I know it, I'm like, wow, a whole month has gone by. Like what? Let's reflect on this month.
Right.
How did that really go? It's like, yeah, you went way into the weeds in things that you did not need to go into the weeds in. And meaning in projects and little things that really don't mean anything.
I
It's
think that that's distraction though.
yeah.
And I think that we talk about this a lot when we just hang out as, you know, friends. We talk about the insane amount of distraction in
Mm,
our existence. And especially now with political crap and governmental crap, we have so much purposeful
mhm,
dialogues, media, imaging, everything is shoving at us 24/7 to distract and look over here, because this is really going on. And
mhm,
we fall for that because that's our so-called norm. So what do? We take that into our inner circle of ourselves. And I just have to do the dishes first, or I've got to go over there and do the laundry. And why can't I just run over there and do that versus I'm just going to finish this chapter in my really cool book on self-help. We
mhm,
don't put ourselves first for that. And I think sometimes I find, and I'm not as scared of this, I think, because I've been doing work for on and off for so long, but I do find this with my clients quite consistently. Sometimes I find that it's a subconscious fear of being quiet because they don't want to stir up the pot of the emotions that they have so carefully put in packages and put on the shelf.
yes. Yes. And there's another part of that I know for me that growing up, you don't need to be idle. You
Mm,
should be doing something. If you have time to sit there and, then you should be doing something.
yeah,
And so
belief system.
that was really hard to change that thought for myself that, you know what, I'm going to sit down and read this book about, whatever it might be about Akashic records. I'm doing it. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter. I don't care if the dishes are sitting in the sink right now. I'm just going to do it. Balloons are going crazy.
they're putting in their 2 cents. I can't see them. They're right behind my tree. I don't know what they're doing. They must be dancing on the water.
I know they're right. It's
Awesome.
echoing across the lake. It's so
Yeah,
awesome.
that's awesome, is right. Again, here's a perfect example. If we don't be quiet enough to just stop and appreciate and have gratitude, that took what, 2 seconds to sit there and acknowledge them and be excited and have a smile. Those are, I think, is the purpose of these messages, is to sit with the tiny things. We don't have to sit there and zen out and read our book for 3 hours. We can do it for 20 minutes, or we can just be present.
Mhm,
And the smaller little exercises turn into yearnings for bigger. In my
mhm,
case, oftentimes, if I'm like doing, oh, I'm just going to read this for 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm really hooked in this, I'm just going to stay. I can find my small successes allow me more long-term, bigger successes. And I think that that is, well, I don't know if successes is the right word, but you get what I'm saying. And I think that that makes it easier to have smaller, um, yeah, smaller accomplishments, you know,
yeah, I
smaller
agree.
joy,
I agree with that. It
smaller.
doesn't have to be big. And because I know when I started opening and experiencing some things, I would look at other people and say, how come you get to do that? Like we
Yep.
talked about before, and that's not the right perspective or um it just doesn't get you very far, very fast
I
to
think
go.
one
Yeah.
of the ulterior subconscious things one wants to sit with if they choose to is atrophy. For me is a big deal right now because of the situation. We did a sandwich broadcast just a while ago, meaning my parents are in their 90s and, me and then kids. And I think atrophy is part of it, watching the world out here, not even just humans, not even just my family, watching the world atrophy or change or shut down or crumble and this is confusing for us because there's a lot crumbling in front of our eyes and that makes us scared. Atrophy feels like everything's dying. And in some cases it is. Belief systems are dying, structures are dying, ways that we have patriarchal, control systems are dying. And people around us are atrophying faster and quicker in some cases right now because there's so much sickness and fear.
Mm.
So I think when we are so caught up in the drama, we think, silly enough, that we are not going to atrophy because we're just too busy. We're too busy to be sick. We're too busy to see that. But what we don't understand is the craziness is actually causing the sick. and you
Right.
and you not paying attention to the warning signs is actually facilitating the quickness of the sick. So it's a catch-22 because we think one thing and actually energetically something else is happening.
Mm.
It's really hard to understand that.
It is. It's very hard. And like talk about I know in your empathing book there are ways you probably have exercises in there for some of this, but like talk about what someone can start to do to open up and take that time to really understand their thoughts and what's subconscious, what's conscious, like what
Mhm.
are they trying to achieve with how they're behaving or how they're reacting, you
I
know.
I think it's what you said earlier. It's even going back further than that is actually the quiet time, in my opinion. Again, take what resonates here. I think the quiet time offers me an examination period of my belief systems. If I sit with myself quietly and remember, what did it feel like to be Kim in that family that was go, 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 push, 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 and validate for doing? What did it
Mhm.
feel like when I got, oh, Kim, you're amazing because you did this? And oh my God, I know I fell for all that crap. I know it. I know for a fact what I felt like when I was in my mid 30s and I had little babies everywhere. And I've said this before when I caught myself in the mirror, had a kid on my hip, I had a business call in my ear, I was folding laundry with the other hand, and I was doing something with the dog with my foot. And I caught myself in the mirror going, you have got to be kidding me. Because I thought at that point in time, because of the validation from outside, that I was amazing and wonderful. And I was constantly chaotic, constantly dramatic.
Mhm.
Everything was dramatic. The reason why was because everyone from the outside kept going, oh my God, you're so amazing. You can handle so much drama. So I would create more drama to handle more drama to get more validation for drama. It was insane.
It is. It
But
is so
what
exhausting.
the key is to sit quietly for a minute in that insanity and say, does this really feel like my truth inside? And I knew for a fact that was not my truth inside. I knew it. I could feel it. I could feel the voice. I could feel the uneasiness. I could feel the panic, not of the drama, the panic of the imbalance. And I knew for a fact I wasn't listening to that voice. I always call it that Energizer Bunny voice because I just was so terrified if the drama stopped, if the chaos stopped, if the dramatic 500 balls in the air stopped, I didn't know who I was.
Hmm.
And that is where it all starts, is sitting with the belief systems of who created the drama, why you believe it, who fills that, who feeds that, who nurtures that, and then get down to the belief of what is really underneath that. Holy shit, underneath that is I don't think there's enough of me. Oh
Hmm.
my God, underneath that, I feel like I'm not enough. Oh my God. And that's the realization. And it's never going to change until you get to that core. And 99% of this is about our enough.
Yeah.
When we're in drama, it's about not enough because we will fill and we'll fill and we'll shove it in, we'll stuff that in, and we'll keep putting in more and more and more and more because that adrenaline rush that we get is is a fake fuel. The
Hmm.
adrenaline rush to keep us engaged is the fake fuel that is non-engagement. It's all a facade. So until we have the courage to look at that, and that will only come with quiet time. I
And
don't
I
care how
didn't,
many people tell you it from the outside, you're not going to listen to it until you find
yeah,
it.
I
So,
didn't realize either that that just triggers the fight or flight stuff,
yep.
which then triggers for me, I didn't understand that all the weight and everything that I was gaining is because I was so imbalanced hormonally
Yeah.
because of the fight or flight. And, you know, understanding what that actually does for all of your organs is just incredible. Like, look into it if, you know, whoever is interested in it. But it does, it creates disease, it creates
Yep.
the illness. So yeah, it is a difficult thing to do. But one of the exercises I remember you doing in Peru was you started out and you took us through our childhood,
Hmm.
you know, and I remember sitting there and I'm like, my child was fine. I loved my childhood and da, 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 da. And I did, honestly, I did. But there were things in that childhood that I had put so far away, that were traumatic for our family, or, you know, and for me specifically. And I never knew I needed to deal with that,
Right.
you know. So that exercise of, you know, do you remember what's the earliest that you can remember being alive? You know, what are
Hmm.
your memories? And you walked us through, then what was it like as a, you know, grade school
Yep.
and, you know, teenager, and even trauma of, I messed up reading in front of the class and was so embarrassed. I mean, that
Right.
seriously, those things stick with you. And I
Yep.
didn't realize that. And then going through, you know, into adulthood. And that really was a great way to, in the quiet, to really sit with some of those things. And it was amazing what kind of popped up, you know, and it
And
takes more than one time for
oh,
sure.
for sure. And
Yeah.
at the same time, there's an exercise in the back of the book on body scanning. And
Mhm.
we also can accomplish a lot of that by just talking to our own body.
Mhm.
Goodness, my neck is always out here. If that had a voice, what would it say? What are you doing? What do you want me to notice? What do you want me to recognize? What do you, well, gosh, self, you're carrying the world on your shoulders right here. Well, I am. I didn't realize I was doing that, and so on and so forth. So we can have dialogues with our body as well as our memory bank. We can really just do anything and everything creatively to make this stuff up, to just get present
Mhm.
with it and or dive into that past. Most people are scared to death to look at their past because God forbid if I put it on the shelf it doesn't exist. Well, the hell it does, and it
Mhm.
sits there and digs at you like your battery is just wearing down. So these are all things that I think that are really great little tactical things that we can do. But on a daily basis, it's constantly just being aware of triggers and being aware of, holy crap, I'm in chaos right now again.
Mhm.
Honestly, how does this feel? How does this really feel? Not think feel. How does it feel? Oh my God, my stomach is so tight. Oh my God, my ears are pinned to my shoulders. Oh my God, and on, examine the actual physical meat and bone body reaction to it, and much less the emotional one. And then the mental hamster wheel, they're all involved in it. So it's being really present and honest. Honesty is really hard too, because it took me a really, really long time to admit that what that woman said to me,
Yeah.
25 years ago, nailed it. I'm like, you wench, you don't even know me, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and obviously she did. So it's funny because I see that in so many of my clients. I can see, and you can see it even on things like Facebook. You can see the people that love that crap, that love that drama, that just want to open up that barrage of, come on, come
Yeah.
in and tackle me. And it's just like, oh God, just have at it,
It's a
call me
lot.
another day.
I
Uh,
don't know. My energy has changed so much that,
yeah.
you know, I don't have patience for a lot of those things anymore. And I definitely don't have the energy, you know, it's like trying to take care of myself and keep that from, because I'm a huge empath. So it's always
Mhm.
working the boundaries and, okay, that's not mine. Let that go. I'm going to stand back and be more neutral because my reaction really wants to go here, and I'm going to step back and be more neutral. And it's work, you know.
And
It's
and to round it down, I think one of the greatest exercises, and I'm doing some work on this as best I can when I think about it, is get comfortable with normal, get comfortable with boring. My mom was classic when we were small to just scream out randomly, life is boring, get used to it. And I used to say, oh, you poor thing, you create boring, therefore your life's boring. Boring doesn't have to be boring.
Mhm.
I think what she meant is it's just natural. It's just human. And, being a galactic of sorts, that's even detrimental to put a label on myself that I'm more galactic than somebody. That's another whole issue that I'm dealing with in terms of it doesn't mean that you're cooler or better. It means that I struggle, actually, And so do I have to have that label to struggle? No. So I'm getting my head around that as well. So we're constantly doing that. We're putting labels on to justify things. And boring is a very difficult word. Human is a difficult word. It seems flat. And we don't trust that. And the reason why we don't trust it is because it feels like the other shoe is going to fall. It feels like if we succumb to normal and boring, it's like we're unaware that we're like, oh crap, I didn't know that was coming. We think and we put into that word and that feeling in that space ignorance of I'm not on task. And that is absolutely not true. You're opened up to everything that's potential when you're truly in that so-called human boring. And I really hope that we come up with a different word eventually to replace boring for what we think these energies are when they are just simply there.
It
They're
feels like
just there.
peace to me. Like it's peaceful. It's
Yeah, and
calm, like calm and
God
peaceful.
forbid the human can own peace, I
Yeah.
mean, that's, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, and we don't trust peace because why? Because then on the crux of peace comes war. And so
Hmm.
this dualistic nature of our thought process is half of our problem.
Hmm.
And again, I tell people, and I write this like this on their sheet when they're a client, up, down, like V's, and or W's or M's. And it's like because of the fact that you're so terrified of the dualistic nature, you'll push the chaos and push the chaos, right?
Hmm.
Because you're so scared of it doing this. And then what you don't understand, however, is you're not enjoying life to the fullest because you're so scared it's going to go away. And you're so stuck and go away that you won't let it go to the fullest. And so we play these games and it's just ridiculous if we just let all of that just flow and be present with it. It's much more awe-inspiring, but gosh, it's difficult, right?
Well, I think being present, being in the moment is what you just said is key because
Yes.
when we start to think about the future, we start to get worked up about what the future is bringing along the baggage from the past. That's where this all collides and is just ugly. It's a lot.
And I think it's important for us to realize how programmed we are. Follow your life just for a 3-day period and watch how your media is programmed for movies are literally depicted as starting out drama. Holy crap, drama. Everything goes so crazy. Oh, now it's going to be bad. We're trained to do this, I mean, it's the Hallmark movie syndrome, everything falls apart and then everything comes together.
Yeah.
And it's the war movies, it's the everything. I mean, we're trained for this ridiculous roller coaster ride. And
Yeah.
when we get off the roller coaster and honor the fact that if somebody still wants to ride that thing, have at it. But certainly I don't have to play. I just don't, I'll sit over here and have a cold drink and watch you sweat it out because it's just your choice. It's your
Mhm.
choice. And
It
it's
is.
always a choice,
Yeah.
always a choice.
That
So,
taking accountability,
yeah.
for yourself and yeah, it is a choice.
So I
Absolutely.
suggest people maybe listen to this one with a little bit open-mindedness and that this roller coaster ride of energy is not going to stop. In terms of our overall energy, we are moving from a very individualized kind of like enfolding who we are, what we were, what we will be. But that work in and of itself is creating a collective change. And so, individual, collective, it's all kind of crashing around us. And these energies are not going to get much easier. What gets easier is it gets the easier how you navigate it. And so think about this if you choose to and do the work to go deeper into the belief system that's holding you hostage in the first place. And I think that's key.
Yeah, absolutely. That's well said. Thank you.
Well, on that note, I'm going to get off of here and have a nice hot cup of coffee on the lake.
I'm
Okay, on behalf of
quiet.
Kim and I, everybody, thanks for watching. Maybe hit subscribe, share, or like button, and hopefully maybe leave a comment. And until next time, we'll see you, Cosmic Hugs. Bye bye.
Enjoy the quiet.